Hey everybody, welcome to my channel. I just wanted to go over some stuff with you real quick on how to make some stencils. If you've watched any of my videos, especially those lately, you've seen where I use stencils throughout my paintings to get different textures, stuff that I would normally use a palette knife with or just take some extra time for using a brush and so forth. Part of the reason I use stencils is that it allows me to quickly lay in the texture that I want and then go back and build it up. And I've had some people ask, hey, how do you do that? Can you show me where it is and all that kind of stuff? So I wanted to go over that real quick and show you how I make stencils for the most part, because I have a couple different techniques, but this is really my primary one for doing it. So let me show you this real quick and let's kind of go over it. So here we go. So the first thing I do is I grab a brush and really any kind of textured brush that there is for it. And then what I'm doing is I'm just simply laying in the rough shape of where I think the waterfall in this case should be. So I'm starting with the rough brush because I want to lay in that texture. I don't want a solid line from like the everlasting oil or something like that. So I just take it and start scraping in some of the color with the various brushes from the custom brush tool right over here. I'm not showing you which ones I use, mainly because it doesn't matter. You just have to kind of play around with it to get the look and feel that you want. And so that's what I'm doing here. So that's really what you want to do as well, is just take the brush, lay in some of the different stuff, and then kind of go with the feel for it that you like. Once you get it laid in there, what you can start doing next is what I'm doing here, which is in the brush. If you click settings, there is a setting that allows you to checkbox. You can check to turn it into eraser mode. So it takes the exact same brush, but instead of adding paint, it's removing the paint. And you can start really breaking up solid spots and things like that and really kind of playing back and forth. So that's really what I'm doing here, is going back and forth with just the different brushes and paying more attention really to the shape. You know, I'm thinking, okay, if I have rocks that would be breaking across it, what would it look like? It would be here, it would be there. And so that's kind of what I'm doing, is just practicing painting the shape and thinking about the way the water would flow more than anything else, and trying to capture some of that roughness and some of that pattern to it. Because again, when I go to paint this as a stencil and use it as a stencil, then I'm going to paint into it and then paint over it once I do that. Also, you notice that I'm painting the black here and on a white canvas. The reason for that is that the black becomes the open part of the stencil. So this is the part that will be the stencil itself. And so that's what I'm paying attention to, is the shape of this overall. This white space around it will be space that I can paint inside of. I try to leave a good amount of white space outside from the area I'm working in. So that way, if I'm painting with a big brush, I don't have to worry about getting over the edge and then having that crisp line there as well. So that's the other thing that I'm doing here as well. And so just kind of painting with it and breaking it up and going back and forth with the eraser function and then with the paint itself. And when I get it to the point that I really kind of like it, that's where I would save it as a JPEG, and then, you know, from there go along. But again, the main reason I'm doing this is because this saves me time for later on. I can take this and use it again and again and again, but by contorting it and twisting and shaping the stencil around, I can turn this one stencil into like 100 different stencils and really be able to use it quite nicely. So about got this one to where I like it, so I'm going to do one now of a rock. And so when I do rocks, a lot of times what I'll do excuse me, is I'll take the roller brush and I'll, you know, define the shape with the selection tool, just kind of rough it in, and then I take the roller brush and just start kind of going all over the spot. And the reason is that these areas here that you see, these become natural, organic shifts and planes, and so those can become my highlights. And it's just a natural way of painting. I would do the exact same thing with a brush on a traditional canvas and just kind of brush it in and look for those natural sections to start highlighting. Well, that's the exact same thing I'm doing here, is getting this laid out so that you can see I kind of take the oil brush and now I'm laying in more highlights and kind of, again, you see where those points were, and that's what I'm doing, is I'm kind of laying it in. This is a general step, and this is also, you can see why I use a stencil for doing this now, whereas before I used to paint it all the time. And so as I paint it and I lay it out, once I get that done, I'm going to go back in using, again, the custom brush. This is a standard brush that's in there. It's the lichen brush. Don't use any of the shadow ones. There are a couple of them that have like the 3D look to it. I just turn those shadows off if I use that, or there's usually another version of it that's just a flat layer. So I'm taking that, the curly brush, curly bush brush, and going over that and the several of the other ones. And really what I'm wanting to do is just build up this texture on top of the stone and kind of get that look and feel that I want, and then go back and push it back to the darkness and bring it up the highlights, and then kind of refine the shape and really keep playing around with it. So this is how I normally would build up stones, and I would get much more organic looks, so I wouldn't go with this kind of an edge and kind of erase it, but I'm not overly worried about that right now. What I'm trying to do is just really kind of get some of these different texture changes. And again, a lot of times when I'm painting these, if I want to spend a lot of time doing this, I'll go in and draw lines in it. I'll take the palette knife and just scrape the paint around and push it around so I get some streaks and that kind of stuff. But this is just showing you how I do these quick stencils like this. And so can really keep going back and forth on it and kind of getting it to where I like it. And this is about where, you know, I take this one that I want to do with it. And so then again, what I would do is save this as a JPEG and then import it into the stencils. So when you're doing that, you can just, once you've got it saved as a JPEG, you export it, you go into stencils, and then you just click import and you import it into here. And then you can see right there it is. And down here in nature, you will see the other one that I did right there, and another one that I did right there. So this is how I tend to get my stencils that I use and import them this way. Now you can import black and white images like photos if you want to, and use them as stencils. I don't like to do it too much because they still look like photos. It looks like you've just taken a photo and are laying it over stuff. It's not bad. I mean, it's just the same as photo bashing. I'm not knocking it at all. It's just personally, I don't want to overly have that type of look. So I don't tend to overly use it as much. And some of the places that I will on occasion are from photos that I've taken of trees and things like that, and use those. But most of those I've gotten to where, like for example with this one, that I just use it as a base. I painted this just like this one, but all black, and then I turned it into it. The other thing too that you can do, and I want to point this out, you can, with this layer, now I could paint this real quick, and then I could go into layers, into my layers palette. I can right click, and then I can do new stencil from layer contents. I don't like that as much, because what happens is that sometimes it doesn't capture all of this. So see, for example, I just did that, and the stencil, oops, wrong one. The stencil doesn't capture all the little nuances. Okay, so that's from content, from the layer content. This one is from saving this image. Notice the difference. See, I've got more texture here than I have here, and so that's why I don't tend to import straight from the layer. I tend to save it as a JPEG and then import it as a stencil up here. So that's one of the main differences. You can occasionally, if it's just black and white, and like you don't have any gray tones in it, then you can do that. Matter of fact, that tree one that I showed you just a second ago, that's exactly how I did that one. When I made these, I just took the ink pen and just kind of scratched in some, just kind of took it and scratched in some different ones like this, and just kind of played around, and then I saved it as the layer contents, and so that's how I got this one. So you can do that, but it really works best if it's something that's like this, where it's just completely black and white versus this gray, because that gray just doesn't tend to pick up all the time. So, but anyway, that's how you can use some of the stencils, and you can get different ones and really just build up a library. You can use photos, like I said. It works. I use it for trees. I mean, that's where this one came from, was a photo of a tree, and then the photo was taken. What I usually do is put it into Photoshop and bring the levels and adjust the levels around to play around with it, and till I get that really black and white kind of thing. But for the most part, I've really gotten to where I like drawing in and creating my own and from paintings that I've done, because I have a lot of different paintings that I've done. And so I'll bring one of those in and do the same thing that I was just talking about with adjusting the layers and getting some of the different looks and stuff like that. Like I've done it with these different water ones and stuff. And really, like this one here, this water, that's just a matter of going back and forth, and you can play around with like the ink tool and really change the pressure and so forth of it, and like the taper. And just by going back and forth like this and kind of filling in, and then you can just save that as a stencil and you'll get that exact same look. So that's kind of where that came from and stuff. But you can do the same with limbs. Like for example, if you want a more hand drawn look, then you can definitely go in and you can do the same with grasses and stuff like that. Grasses and stuff I like to do by hand because I like the organic look of it more. But if there's a lot of ones that you want to use, then you could do that, and you could definitely play around. But again, you've got those same things in your sticker spray, so why bother? I guess is really kind of the point, because you've got different ones. You can draw up some of these and you can save them as sticker sprays. This is actually from an Aaron Blaze one. The main thing I was going to say was, like, for example, some of these ones that you have that are dune grass and stuff. I mean, see, that's so that's why I don't do that, because I want, now that is one thing you can use it for doing different things like palm brushes, palm leaves and stuff. So there's a lot of different ways you can use it. But anyway, I'm digressing. I'm getting away from the whole point of this video, which is to talk about making stencils. So I hope that helps give you some ideas of what you can do. I do have these stencils, like I mentioned, over on my website. Not on my website, in the Facebook group that we have. So come on over there and join, and then you can they're totally free just for members of that. Make sure if you do request to join, you answer all the questions. If you don't answer them, I don't let you in. That's my way of keeping spammers out. We have a nice little group over there that everybody kind of contributes as they can, and it's open to answering questions and stuff like that. So if you haven't already, make sure to like and subscribe, and hit the little bell notification, and we'll go from there. So I appreciate everything, and have a great day, evening, morning, whatever it is. But until next time, I'll talk to you later. Bye.